Welcome to the Verdict Zone. Today's story is a deep dive into those encounters that feel off from the very first second. It was my last year of high school, and I was tutoring during my free period. It was a pretty standard gig, mostly helping other students with math problems they were stuck on. One afternoon, a new girl sits down across from me at the library table. She doesn't say hello. She doesn't ask if I can help her with algebra or geometry. Her opening line, without any preamble, is an offer to see her personal medical implant. I was completely thrown. Before I could even process the question, she was already pulling up her shirt slightly to show me this device embedded in her side. Then, just as quickly, she lowers her shirt and looks me up and down. Her next words were a direct comment on my body, my physical appearance. In that moment, the social script wasn't just ignored, it was shredded right before my eyes. The normal, expected sequence of a first meeting, a greeting, an introduction, a statement of purpose was completely absent. Instead, I was hit with an intensely personal medical disclosure followed by an equally personal and unsolicited observation about me. It was disorienting, to say the least. It was the kind of interaction that short-circuits your brain because it's so far outside the realm of normal human behavior. We all have this internal set of rules for how we meet people, and she had just taken a sledgehammer to it. There was no warm-up, no small talk, just this jarring, boundary-crossing opening that left me speechless and immediately on guard. That was our introduction, and it set the tone for everything that followed. That bizarre introduction was only the beginning. The conversation, if you could even call it that, immediately shifted into what felt less like a chat and more like a forensic interview. She started asking a relentless series of questions. Who are my friends? What were their names? Where exactly did I live? What street? What did my parents do for a living? The questions were rapid-fire, invasive, and intensely personal. It was like she was trying to build a complete profile of me within minutes of meeting me. My internal alarms were blaring. This wasn't curiosity. This felt like information gathering. I became incredibly guarded, giving vague, non-committal answers. I'd say things like, "Oh, I have friends in a few different groups," or "I live in the area." I gave her absolutely nothing concrete to hold on to. The entire exchange was a masterclass in deflection on my part. After about 10 minutes of this intense prying, she stood up as abruptly as she had sat down and just walked away, leaving me sitting there completely bewildered. I never saw her at tutoring again. I figured that was the end of it, just a weird one-off encounter. But a few days later, I was sitting at my usual lunch table with my group of friends. We were just laughing and talking, and suddenly, she was there. She appeared out of nowhere, stood at the edge of our table, inserted herself into our conversation with a single, non-sequitur comment, and then vanished just as quickly as she'd arrived. My friends looked at me, confused, asking who that was. I had no real answer. It was confusing, it was boundaryless, and it felt incredibly targeted. She wasn't just socially awkward. She was actively and deliberately crossing lines and inserting herself into my personal space and social circles without any invitation. The pattern was becoming clear. This wasn't random weirdness. It was a deliberate and unsettling focus on me. So let's stop and analyze the evidence here. Let's break down this behavior piece by piece, like jurors in a case. First, you have the extreme oversharing right at the start. Leading with a personal medical implant isn't just unusual. It's a form of what's called forced teaming or manufactured intimacy. It's designed to make you feel like you have a special, instant connection, which can lower your defenses. Exhibit B. The immediate physical commentary. Judging or commenting on someone's body in the first 30 seconds of meeting them is a massive boundary violation. It's a power move, designed to put you on the defensive and establish a dynamic where they are the assessor and you are the subject. Next, we have the interrogation. The demand for personal logistics, where I live, who my friends are. This isn't small talk, it's intelligence gathering. It's a probe to see what level of access she can get to my life. And finally, the boundary hopping appearances. Showing up at my tutoring session, then my private lunch table. This demonstrates a complete disregard for social spaces and personal boundaries. It's a test to see how I'll react when my territory is invaded. When you put all these pieces together, a clear pattern emerges. This isn't just an awkward person trying to make a friend. This is a pattern of testing limits, seeking access, and asserting control. This forces us to ask a vital question, one that is critical for our safety and for learning to trust our intuition. When someone's very first interaction with you is a glaring violation of social norms, what is it really? Is it just a harmless cry for help from someone who doesn't know any better? Is it a potential sign of underlying malice? Or is it a critical red flag? A warning signal from your gut that you absolutely must not rationalize away. Our society often encourages us to be polite, to give people the benefit of the doubt. We're told not to judge the weird kid or the person who seems a little off, but there's a massive difference between someone being shy or quirky and someone whose opening move is to bulldoze through every reasonable social boundary. We have to ask ourselves, at what point does being understanding become being unsafe? Do we dismiss these gut feelings as overreactions? Or do we recognize that the complete absence of normal boundaries can sometimes be a direct prelude to the revelation of real danger? This isn't about being unkind. It's about being smart. It's about acknowledging that those social rules we all subconsciously follow exist for a reason. They are the guardrails of safe interaction. And when someone intentionally drives right through them in the first minute of meeting you, it's not just an accident. It's a statement. And it's a statement we need to learn how to read correctly, for our own protection. The final piece of the puzzle fell into place a week or so later. The strange behavior was about to get some much-needed context. I heard through the school grapevine that the girl had been suspended. The reason? She was caught with a prohibited item in her backpack on school grounds. Suddenly, all the weirdness, the boundary pushing, the intense questions, it all clicked into a much more unsettling picture. The behavior wasn't just off. It was indicative of a much larger pattern of disregarding rules, not just social ones, but official ones. This story isn't about judging her or whatever struggles she was going through. It's about the critical importance of trusting our own instincts when the social contract is broken so immediately and so blatantly. Think about this. The most important red flags are often not what a person tries to hide, but what they bizarrely choose to lead with. When someone's introduction to you is a performance of boundary violation, it is very rarely an invitation to connect. More often than not, it's a test of your defenses. It's them checking to see if your locks are open. My unease wasn't an overreaction. It was my internal security system correctly identifying a threat assessment in progress. It was a signal that I needed to be on guard. So, I have to ask you all. Have you ever had an encounter like this, where your gut just screamed wrong from the very first sentence? That feeling in your stomach that tells you something isn't right, even if you can't logically explain it yet. What did you do? Did you listen to that feeling, or did you try to rationalize it away, telling yourself you were being judgmental or unfair? Was I right to be so wary of her from the start? You be the judge. Subscribe to The Verdict Zone and hit that bell so you don't miss our next case. And most importantly, deliver your verdict in the comments below. Have you ever ignored a similar red flag and ended up regretting it? I want you to share your stories, because we can all learn from each other's experiences. Sharpen your judgment with more cases right here on The Verdict Zone. Thanks for watching.